Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. I hope you are doing well. In today's video, I'd like to make a follow-up on the topic of immigration and deportation. I got a lot of comments on that video, both positive and negative. And for those of you who took the time to leave a comment, thank you so much. I know that it does take time to leave a comment, so thank you, regardless of whether it is a positive or a negative comment. Okay, I also got some questions on this topic. And one question was, can you be deported despite being married to a US citizen? I'm going to answer that question today. And before I move on with the topic, I'd like to add a disclaimer. I am not an immigration lawyer and I am not an expert on this topic. So if you need more information on this topic, please visit uscis.gov. This is United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. And all of this information I'm providing is available online. Okay, so let's start with this topic. So the question is, can you be deported despite marriage to a U.S. citizen? To answer that question, yes, you can still be deported despite being married to a U.S. citizen. I'd like to add another thing. Legal entry to the United States does not guarantee you a green card. Marriage to a U.S. citizen does not automatically protect you from deportation. It may open pathways to adjust your status or apply for relief. Immigration laws are complex, and couples must carefully navigate them to ensure a stable future without fearing separation. Now, I'm going to provide 4 reasons for deportation despite marriage to a U.S. citizen. And the first one is quite obvious. If you commit marriage fraud, that is a ground for deportation. Marriage fraud is a serious accusation, and it can carry long-lasting penalties for foreign nationals. In some cases, it can even lead to deportation, even if the foreign national is married to a U.S. citizen. You may be accused of marriage fraud if USCIS determines that you married a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident for the sole purpose of gaining an immigration benefit. If that were to occur, your immigrant petition or application to adjust status will be denied. If you already have a green card, your permanent resident status will be revoked based on marriage fraud. You will then be placed into deportation proceedings unless you overcome this fraud accusation. Your spouse may also face possible fines and even imprisonment for up to 5 years in the worst case scenario if they are found to have knowingly participated in the fraud. Alright, so the number 2 reason for deportation despite marriage to a U.S. citizen is immigration misrepresentation. The USCIS will find you inadmissible to the United States if it is determined that you obtain an immigration benefit, such as a visa or permanent resident status, through any type of willful misrepresentation. This can include entering false information on immigration application or failing to disclose crucial information during an interview. Even if you marry a U.S. citizen, the misrepresentation finding will make you ineligible to apply for adjustment of status. Then, if you are unable to overcome this accusation, you will be deemed deportable. Now, I'd like to add this really quick. I have no idea how those people who are in a fake relationship pass this process, or this visa application process, because it's actually very strict. Next reason for deportation is failing to remove conditions on green card in 2 years. Some foreign nationals may not understand how vital it is to file an application to remove the conditions on their green card in a timely manner. As unlikely as it may seem, this is a realistic way to lose your green card status and be deportable despite your marriage to a U.S. citizen. Form I-751, this is the petition to remove conditions on residence, must be filed during the 90-day period before your conditional green card expires. Now, some people wait until the last minute, and that is not a good idea. If you happen to divorce or lose your U.S. citizen spouse while you are on a conditional status or you are a conditional resident, you will need to have the joint filing requirement to waive for Form I-751. However, failing to act can lead to deportation. Now, let's talk a little bit about this adjustment of status, because, again, as I mentioned, legal entry to the United States does not guarantee you a green card. So to remove the conditions on that green card, you must fulfill these 4 criteria. So the first one is lawful entry. To acquire a green card via marriage, you must have entered the U.S. legally. If you didn't, you might need a waiver, and this is called 601A waiver. Now, some people have entered the United States using a tourist visa and then they got married once they got here. Now, that is not the correct process. I've heard of someone doing this and they ended up having to, you can do it, but you're not supposed to. Legally, that's yes, the entry is legal because you have the tourist visa, but if your intent was to marry in the first place, you're supposed to use a fiancé visa. Now, let's say this is not intentional. You were vacationing, you happened to meet someone here, and you decided to get married to be able to stay with that person. I've seen that happen before, and this person ended up having to hire a lawyer, and this is very costly because, again, you're not supposed, at least for Filipinos, I'm not sure about other foreign nationals, but Filipinos are not supposed to get married on a tourist visa. All right, let's move on to the next criteria to be able to adjust or remove the conditions on this green card. Authentic marriage, as I mentioned. Your marriage will be scrutinized by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. To ensure a marriage-based citizenship, you must prove its authenticity, and you have to expect detailed USCIS evaluations of your marital life. I have no idea how those committing fraud pass this process because it's actually a very strict process and there's layers to this process. So first of all, they will scrutinize this relationship. You have to make sure, they want to make sure that this is an authentic relationship. So they're going to be asking you all kinds of evidence to prove its authenticity. Let's say you pass that. Now there's the interview, and this is before entry to the United States, okay? That interview is not very easy, especially for those who don't know much about the person they're marrying. I mean, you're supposed to, but some of these questions are kind of tricky. They really are like fishing and one advice I got is that to just answer the question. Don't give too little answer or too much answer. So just answer the question that you were given. Now, one of the questions that was asked to me was quite odd, but I guess the goal of the consular officer is to really know if I actually know the person I'm marrying. I was asked about my future brother-in-law's middle name. I mean, can you believe that? I actually told my fiance, now my husband, about this, and he was like, "Wow, that's weird." And good thing you knew. Anyway, so I've seen at least two girls fail their interview because they were asked some random questions and they don't know the answer. Now, one of the girl I ended up befriending, she was really heartbroken because I guess her fiance did not really share that he's been married so many times, more than she knew. So yes, she was asked about that, and she couldn't provide much information on those on that specific topic. Maybe because, I mean, it's not that they were faking that relationship, but it's just that maybe the man did not want to disclose all of that past relationship. But in this case, you kind of almost have to know the basic details, because if you get asked the question and you have no idea, at least how many times he's been divorced, then yeah, that's a problem. All right, let's move on to the medical examination. Did I mention this? This is very important. Now, another thing I'd like to share on this medical examination is this is another layer and of, making sure that this relationship is authentic or is in good standing, I should say. Now, I remember that one girl during my medical exam was just denied right then and there because during her medical exam, she was found out to be pregnant. And there's no way for her to prove that this pregnancy was actually with the person she's marrying. So I have no idea how those who are committing fraud pass this process because it's a very strict process, but I guess some people still do pass the process. Anyways, so let's move on to the last criteria to be able to remove that conditions on the green card. Income verification. This is very important. To ensure immigrants don't strain public resources, the USCIS requires proof of sufficient income level. That's why they're going to ask your petitioner to provide an affidavit of support to demonstrate that you won't become a public charge. Next reason for deportation is having criminal convictions. Having a criminal conviction can lead to deportation even if you are married to a U.S. citizen. Traditionally, the kind of criminal offense that could lead to deportation for foreign nationals were primarily aggravated felonies and crimes involving moral turpitude. However, the House recently passed a bill to make immigrants deportable if they are convicted for even minor nonviolent crimes. Thus, if you have a criminal conviction, your marriage to a U.S. citizen will not automatically protect you, as you will still be considered inadmissible to the U.S. and is eligible for deportation. So here is my final thoughts. Marriage to a U.S. citizen offers one of the most straightforward pathways to permanent resident status for foreign nationals, but always make sure that you know what you're doing when it comes to paperwork. Educate yourself with the process. Nowadays, there's so many people sharing their experiences out there, so it's much easier. Back in the day, there's very little information. You really have to like dig deep and research a lot of this stuff. And a lot of people, at least back in my day, have hired immigration lawyer. You can also do that. I mean, especially if your situation is a little bit complicated. Let's say there are previous marriages involved in this process, and there are children involved. Again, because of that affidavit of support, let's say the petitioner has several children that they're supporting. Things can get complicated sometimes on the process, so it's always good to really educate yourself if you are the one that's doing the paperwork. Now, if you can't do it, you're just 100% sure I'm not going to be able to do it because it's so complicated, well, go ahead and hire an immigration lawyer. Now, as I mentioned, marriage and legal entry to the United States does not guarantee a green card. So my advice is to always follow the law, do it legally. It's much easier because I've seen a couple of people doing it, trying to trick the system. You end up spending so much more money because they're going to get you no matter what. So that's the video for today. If you have any question or you'd like to add anything, you are more than welcome to do that in my comment section below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on my next vlog. Bye.